July 12, 2003. Classmates from Woodhaven High School are excited to be reconnecting with friends on a one-night pleasure cruise celebrating their 10-year high school reunion. But many of them are surprised to see that the belle of the ball is Nadia Green. Back in high school, Nadia was called Nerdy Nadia because she had braces and big glasses. But when she boards the ship all grown up, her old classmates don't even recognize her. But old friends can also bring up old grudges. Woodhaven classmates are shocked when Nadia's night ends with her tragic demise. Who killed Nadia Green? Was it murder or a horrible accident? Why would someone want her dead? And which of her classmates was responsible? The class of 1993 at Woodhaven High School are boarding a one-night pleasure cruise to celebrate their 10-year high school reunion. At 316 feet long, with space for over 200 passengers, it's a perfect night for a cruise along the rivers of Pennsylvania.
Before social media, classmates didn't tend to keep in touch with each other unless they were very close. So things like high school reunions were so important because that was the only way you could really keep in touch with people and find out what had happened to them all these years.
One of the biggest surprises is Nadia Green, who arrives with her handsome husband, Sean Green.
So I was told that everyone was amazed when Nadia walked in. She was gorgeous, she was a doctor now, married to a really handsome husband. So I guess that was a total surprise to a lot of people.
Nadia gets to live out all of our fantasies. She gets to come back as the hottie, right? She gets to come back, shedding off her old nerd persona and just seeming to have it all, to have this amazing life.
Nadia grew up in Pittsburgh and wasn't exactly Miss Popular at Woodhaven High School.
People often called her Nerdy Nadia. I never called her that. I just thought she was smart in general, and I guess that's why they thought she was nerdy.
Nadia was bullied a lot in school. They called her Nerdy Nadia because of her braces and big glasses. She was probably a bit smarter than a lot of them as well. And the worst bully of all was that classic mean girl, Helen Turnbull.
Nadia's biggest humiliation comes during her senior prom, when Helen and her friends get drunk and pour a punch bowl onto Nadia's head.
Prom was the worst for her. I still can't believe someone would do something like that to her.
As much as Nadia was the nerdy girl, Helen was the popular girl.
But fortunately for Nadia, her date is willing to stick up for her.
Jordan was Nadia's best friend in high school. He was the one person that had the courage to stand up for her, and she's never forgotten that. She's always thought of him with fondness.
After graduation, Nadia's family moves to Los Angeles.
When Nadia enters her 20s, she begins to blossom. She has a growth spurt. She changes her glasses to contact lenses. She gets rid of her braces. She starts to look like an entirely different person and starts to feel beautiful for the first time in her life.
Nadia attends a Los Angeles medical school and eventually meets Sean Green.
Sean is a gentleman that Nadia met in university. She was attracted to him right away. They seemed to have a lot in common, and they got together very quickly.
The power couple quickly rises through the ranks, graduating and becoming well-respected pediatricians.
I was happy to know that she had become a doctor. Good for her.
The former nerdy Nadia becomes Dr. Nadia and marries her college sweetheart.
It's a testament to her personal strength. I can't believe how well she's done over the years.
Nadia forgets all about Woodhaven High School until an invitation to the reunion reaches her at her office.
Everyone who's ever been bullied has that fantasy of showing up later on and showing the bully that they have a much better life. This is Nadia's motivation for attending. She wants to prove the bullies wrong. She ended up with the gorgeous husband, the successful career, now she's beautiful. She wants to make them eat their nasty words.
Nadia and Sean decide to make the trip to Pittsburgh to attend the reunion. For Nadia, her redemption has been 10 years in the making. Immediately upon arrival, Nadia finds herself at the center of attention and is having the time of her life. One of the most heartfelt reunions on the ship comes when Nadia runs into Jordan Nardiello.
Amidst all the people who were cruel to Nadia, there was her one shining light, her friend Jordan, and she's so excited to introduce her husband to this man he's heard so much about.
But not everyone is as excited to see Nadia and her newfound happiness.
There was no sign of that nerdy Nadia anymore. Maybe a few were jealous too because of all the good things that had happened to her.
Helen's life since high school has been on a bit of a different trajectory from Nadia's. She recently lost her job, has been a little bit down on her luck, and has really been looking forward to this reunion so that she could relive her high school glory days.
I never really liked Helen. I mean, she was popular, but she was insecure for some reason, and you could see that from a mile away. It's probably why she was so mean to people like Nadia.
Helen hasn't got over her bullying tendencies. She can't stand to see Nadia having such a good time and being the life of this party. So she actually takes Nadia's old photos over in the hopes of humiliating them. But thankfully, the couple managed to have a good laugh and just take the high road.
As the celebration reaches its peak that night, a cloudy weather pattern covers up the full moon in the sky.
Then the power goes out. Ordinarily, this could be disconcerting on a cruise ship, but the revelers are having such a great time, they don't let it bother them.
But the good mood on board is interrupted by a blood-curdling scream coming from the front of the ship. July 12, 2003. Woodhaven High School students are gathering for their 10-year reunion on a luxury pleasure cruise along the rivers of Pennsylvania. The big surprise of the evening is that nerdy Nadia Green has grown up to become Dr. Nadia, along with her handsome husband, Sean.
Everyone was amazed when Nadia walked in. She was gorgeous. She was a doctor now, married to a really handsome husband. So I guess that was a total surprise to a lot of people.
But while Nadia introduces her husband to her old friends, not everyone is excited to see her, including Helen Turnbull. The former prom queen has grown up into a jealous, unemployed college dropout. But after doing her best to embarrass Nadia, Helen only ends up embarrassing herself and storms off in a jealous rage. But the good mood turns tragic when suddenly the power goes out and the music is replaced by a blood-curdling scream. Woodhaven students follow the crew member holding a flashlight, only to discover a body lying in a pool of blood. Suddenly, the lights turn on, revealing the true horror of what happened. Nadia Green's throat has been cut. She's choking on her own blood. Tragically, Nadia Green dies in her husband's arms. What's more, there's a killer on board the ship. But Woodhaven students are lucky because there's also a detective on the scene.
Catherine Lockhart is a woman who back in high school was actually in the same class as Nadia and Helen. And she's become a detective with the Pittsburgh Police Department, and she's on board with them. You know, upon discovering Nadia's murder, Catherine takes it upon herself to take the investigation under her control.
Someone texted me that Nadia was killed. It was a big shock. I mean, why? Who would do this? Such a nice person. I was glued to my phone all night for updates after that.
Detective Lockhart tells some of the crew to take Sean to an isolated area and also to section off the ship and cover the victim's body. The ship is now a crime scene.
I heard Cat Lockhart was on board heading the investigation. I always liked her. She was a very smart person.
Detective Lockhart asks the crew to call Pittsburgh police and also to check any security tapes to see if they can get a visual on what happened.
What she discovers, however, is that the cameras had been turned off.
Before Detective Lockhart starts to examine the scene, she canvasses her former classmates to see if anyone has any information on a possible culprit.
People texted me that they thought Helen did it. She always had it out for Nadia.
Everyone thinks immediately that Helen Turnbull is the one who killed Nadia. Out of all of them, she's the only one known to have a grudge.
Detective Lockhart immediately asks Helen if she has any knowledge about what happened to Nadia.
I think given, Catherine's knowledge of the relationship between Nadia and Helen, and probably everybody else there knew that there was animosity between the two, Helen would naturally be, a person of interest in the investigation right off the bat.
But Helen claims to have been in the bathroom the whole time. When the lights went out, she heard the screaming, and she didn't feel it was safe to come back out until the lights went on.
Detective Lockhart returns to the crime scene to examine Nadia's body for clues. Detective Lockhart notices a slash along the base of Nadia's neck. Whoever killed her used a blade of some kind. But then, Lockhart notices something she didn't see before.
Upon examining Nadia's body, Catherine discovers that her hand is holding on to a clump of hair. So this is very important evidence for the investigation. It indicates that there's likely been a struggle of some kind, and Nadia was trying to defend herself.
After sealing the evidence, Detective Lockhart is approached by a crew member.
When the crew member went to investigate, he found that the circuit had been flipped. Now, this could mean it was just an overridden circuit, or perhaps someone did it deliberately.
You know, having located the turned off breaker, which has effectively shut off the video cameras, might indicate that somebody had a plan to commit this murder and turned off the cameras intentionally. It could have been turned off inadvertently prior to, but that needs to be determined yet.
Pittsburgh PD arrived shortly after and helped create a perimeter to the crime scene. With 2 hours before the ship can get back to its home dock, it's up to Detective Lockhart and her colleagues to find out who killed Nadia. Los Angeles-based pediatrician Nadia Green has been murdered at the scene of her 10-year high school reunion. Husband Sean Green is devastated, but Pittsburgh detective Kat Lockhart is on the case. Guests are already pointing at Helen Turnbull as a possible suspect, who was jealous over Nadia's newfound success and popularity.
People are as gossipy now as they were then. I was getting all sorts of information. People texted me that they thought Helen did it. She always had it out for Nadia.
But Helen denies any involvement, despite having no witnesses to confirm her alibi. With Pittsburgh police officers arriving to the ship by powerboat and only 2 hours left until the ship hits mainland, it's time for Detective Lockhart to start her official investigation. First, Detective Lockhart holds a strategy meeting with her other officers. This meeting is meant to give the officers a chance to catch up on what she knows and to help them form an investigation plan.
Detective Lockhart knows that everything was going well with the party until there was cloud cover. When the moon went behind a cloud, that's when things seemed to go wrong. That's when the lights go out, people scream, and it's most likely that then was when Nadia was attacked.
When the lights come back on, the guests on board the ship discover Sean Green holding his wife in his arms as she dies from a bleeding throat wound. He tries to resuscitate her, but it's too late. Detective Lockhart also tells the officers about the hair that she found gripped in Nadia's hand.
The evidence that Nadia is holding in her hand tells us a lot about our killer. They probably had brown hair, and their hair had to be long enough that she could grab a handful of it.
Lockhart tells her fellow officers that if they can find someone with a patch of brown hair missing, they're most likely looking at their killer. Detective Lockhart sends the officers out into the field to start examining the guests. Meanwhile, she decides to conduct a formal interview, the first of the investigation, starting with Helen Turnbull.
Someone texted me that Kat was interviewing Helen. I really wish I was in that room.
Being a former classmate of Helen and Nadia, Detective Lockhart is familiar with their history.
Detective Lockhart saw the feud to develop between Nadia and Helen in high school, so that's what she starts asking. She starts asking Helen where this all originated from. Helen has enough self-awareness to admit it came because she was actually jealous of Nadia. Nadia's great grades and, seemingly higher intelligence made her feel insecure about herself. But even though she admitted that, she said that just because she was jealous of Nadia, that doesn't make her a killer.
Helen also reiterates her original alibi, that she was not present in the room during the time the murder occurred.
Helen tells Detective Lockhart at the time that she was in fact in the bathroom when this event took place, and it couldn't possibly have been her.
Despite this, Detective Lockhart presses her to name any witnesses that can confirm her alibi, as the surveillance footage at the time was unavailable. Helen could not provide names of anyone to corroborate her claim, but Lockhart reluctantly decides to accept her story. But not before doing one last check to her hair.
Helen's hair is the same color as the hair that was found in Nadia's hand, when her body was discovered. But there's more to hair than just color. Obviously, it would need to be determined that it is in fact her hair in Nadia's hand, and this can't be done necessarily on the spot.
But Helen shows no signs of damage to hair or scalp.
Even though Helen looked like the most probable suspect, she wasn't in the room, so there's no way she could be the killer. If she feels guilty about anything, it's probably how she treated Nadia when Nadia was still alive.
Before she leaves, Helen wishes Detective Lockhart well on her investigation, offering to help any way she can. Next, Detective Lockhart interviews Nadia's husband, Sean Green.
Then I get told that they're interviewing Nadia's husband, Sean.
Sean's a bit of an outsider in this scenario, but as far as he can tell, Nadia seemed to get along with everyone except Helen. He can't understand why anyone else would have a motive to kill his wife. As the spouse of the murder victim, Sean is naturally going to be one of the top suspects automatically, just because he's her husband. That's the way it works. So Detective Lockhart is starting to question him.
Sean is offended by Lockhart's question and asks if he's being considered as a suspect.
People in intimate relationships with murder victims are often initially considered suspects because of the emotional connection and the possibility for these emotions to spill over into violence. And statistically, people that are in these relationships are more likely to have committed the murder than somebody just random.
Detective Lockhart's trying to get more answers from Sean, trying to figure out more about what their marriage was actually like. Since they're both pediatricians, she naturally asks if they plan to have children of their own. At this point, Sean got very emotional and asked why he was being interrogated about his wife, who just died in his arms.
But there's a method to Detective Lockhart's strategy. If someone's getting emotional, that usually means they're telling the truth. What's more, they're probably not in control of their answers.
There's something about the way he answered that heightened Detective Lockhart's suspicions.
Finally, Lockhart asks Sean to take off his hat. Sean takes off his hat and reveals a messy but otherwise normal haircut.
Even though his hair color matches the sample in Nadia's hand, the length is wrong.
But then, Lockhart hears screaming from outside the office.
The strangeness of this high school reunion doesn't end with Nadia's death. It turns out they discover another body on board.
Suddenly, a Pittsburgh police officer comes into the office and announces they've found another body on board, which means the killer has struck again. At her 10-year high school reunion, Dr. Nadia Green has been murdered. Pittsburgh police detective Kat Lockhart is on the case and notices a clump of brown hair in Nadia's hand. Classmates suggest that Nadia's longtime bully, Helen Turnbull, could be a suspect, but Helen denies any involvement. And there's no witnesses placing her at the scene. Nadia's grieving husband, Sean Green, also claims his innocence. But before Detective Lockhart can inspect Sean's head any further, Pittsburgh police interrupt to inform her they found another body on the ship, which means the killer has struck again. Detective Lockhart is shocked to discover another Woodhaven classmate, Jordan Nardello, dead and hidden inside a bathroom stall with his throat slashed. Detective Lockhart is furious this happened with so many police on board the ship.
What's really worrying here is the audacity of someone to kill twice, knowing that there's a detective on board. Time is running out to catch this person because the last thing anyone wants is for them to strike again.
Detective Lockhart delivers the grim news to Sean Green and says they'll finish the interview later.
And then I heard Jordan had died too? What the hell was happening? I mean, I know everyone on board was scared after that.
Well, when police discover a second body killed in similar fashion to Nadia, they immediately have to be concerned that there's a person on board the ship who has killed multiple people and may kill more.
There's obviously something going on below the surface for Jordan and Nadia, who were close friends, to both end up murdered.
Detective Lockhart was a student at Woodhaven as well, and also wonders if there's a connection between Nadia and Jordan. Lockhart also remembers speaking to Jordan personally during the party. He said he attended the cruise alone and was looking forward to reuniting with some old friends.
There doesn't seem to be any clear reason why someone would target Nadia and Jordan. They were good friends. They were intelligent, thoughtful people who didn't really offend anyone. So why would the two of them have been targeted for murder?
Detective Lockhart also notices that both Nadia and Jordan were murdered in exactly the same way.
This does seem to be the same killer. Not only is it the same event, but they were both killed the same way. Their throats were slashed and they both died of blood loss.
Detective Lockhart orders police and crew to start scouring the ship for a murder weapon.
They're on a body of water and they're moving. If someone were to throw a murder weapon overboard, it would be almost impossible to find.
Detective Lockhart also demands they start frisking passengers to see if there's any weapons or possible clues to help them catch the killer.
Well, Lockhart's main concern at this point is the safety of the rest of the people on the boat. Given the fact that we have two people killed in very close proximity to each other in a very similar fashion, is very alarming, and it indicates that somebody is potentially able to kill more people.
Detective Lockhart's frustrations are at a breaking point until she notices an old photo of Nadia and Jordan together from their high school prom.
Detective Lockhart always thought that Jordan and Nadia were just friends, but now this photo reveals them holding hands like a couple, seeming quite cozy. Were they? Was there more to their relationship? And most importantly, did Sean know?
Detective Kat Lockhart is in the process of interviewing Dr. Sean Green regarding the murder of his wife, Dr. Nadia Green, during a high school reunion cruise. Lockhart has found a crucial piece of evidence, a lock of brown hair, clutched in Nadia's hand, which contains DNA that could eventually identify the killer. During the initial interview with Sean, he denies any involvement and reveals that he hasn't lost any hair. But the interview is interrupted when another body is found on board. Jordan Nardello is found murdered in the men's bathroom, also by a lacerated throat. But when Detective Lockhart remembers that Jordan and Nadia attended their high school prom together and were murdered in the exact same way, she wonders if there was more to their relationship, and if Nadia's husband, Sean Green, knew anything about it. Detective Lockhart immediately brings Sean Green in for another interview.
If anyone were to know about Nadia's romantic history, you would think it would be her husband, Sean, but he didn't mention anything about a relationship between Nadia and Jordan in his interview. Sean brings up the fact that he was being questioned by Detective Lockhart herself when Jordan was murdered, so obviously he couldn't be the killer.
Such a seemingly arbitrary and flimsy excuse does nothing to help Sean's case.
I think the tone of a person's answers when they're being questioned about their involvement in a murder, particularly the murder of their supposedly intimate partner, is very important. So to answer questions sarcastically or flippantly would be suspicious as an investigator. That's something I would take note of, and I would wonder why, beyond the mere shock of having to deal with this type of situation, why would somebody provide such strange answers?
Detective Lockhart's suspicions are mounting, and she wants to nail down Sean's whereabouts. She asks him where he was before Jordan was killed. Sean says that he was still extremely upset and reminds Lockhart that he was in the private room he had been escorted to after his wife's death. Detective Lockhart asks the officers if they can confirm this.
Pittsburgh police informed Detective Lockhart that there were moments when Sean wasn't being monitored. This would have given him a chance to slip out and murder Jordan without being seen. It would be very unusual for someone who's grieving like the very recent death of their spouse to have the wherewithal to commit murder again.
But then Detective Lockhart asks if Sean has any information about a possible romance between Nadia and Jordan. Lockhart shows Sean the photo, but he doesn't react. He simply shrugs and says if they had one, he didn't know about it. And now Detective Lockhart can confirm that she's just caught Sean in a lie, because she knows for a fact that he did know about their relationship. Officers have just found proof from a search through his text messages that he and Nadia had been arguing about attending the reunion. The main point of their argument had been the subject of Jordan.
I knew Jordan and Nadia were really close in high school. I assumed they'd lost touch. I guess not.
Because we have two people who've been killed in very similar fashion and in very close proximity time-wise to each other, investigators would want to establish a link between those two people to determine if they were both killed for the same reason or a similar reason. So in trying to establish that link, investigators discovered that there was in fact a string of text messages between the two. They did know each other, they knew each other well, and they had been communicating with each other for some time.
Nadia and Jordan had kept in touch over the years, and they had kept that bond that they had back in high school. Sean knew about this, and he wasn't overly happy about it. In fact, he didn't even want to go to the reunion. Nadia forced him to go. Detective Lockhart can tell that Sean's lying about something. She asks him once more to take off his hat.
But this time, Sean refuses to take his hat off. Lockhart gets two officers to make Sean stand up and submit to a hair inspection. As his hat is taken off, the officers notice a small mark on the back of Sean's head.
This time, when she takes off the hat, she discovers that there is a patch of hair missing.
This immediately confirms that Sean is a main suspect, and Detective Lockhart has him handcuffed as she shows him more evidence. The security footage shows Sean and Nadia boarding the ship together.
the surveillance footage shows that when Sean boarded the boat, his hat was facing forwards. Then, after Nadia's body was discovered, it's now facing backwards. That's what gave Detective Lockhart the idea that there was something going on with Sean's hair. And sure enough, she can see in the old footage that his hair used to be longer.
This means that before his initial interview, Sean must have quietly slipped out of his private room and entered a bathroom, probably with the same knife he used to kill his wife and Jordan. With this blade, he cut his hair in an attempt to cover up what was pulled out during the struggle with his wife. While this was happening, Jordan must have walked in and witnessed Sean in the process. With this new evidence, Detective Lockhart has Sean Green arrested for the murders of his wife Nadia and Jordan Nardello. Detective Lockhart has arrested Sean Green for the murder of his wife Nadia and Jordan Nardello. Further evidence reveals even more startling information.
The autopsy on Nadia showed something startling. She was actually pregnant.
Nadia was pregnant at the time. Poor girl.
In hindsight, there may have been clues to this. During their interview, Detective Lockhart notices that Sean's demeanor changes when she asks him about having children.
Sean and Nadia wanted to have children, but didn't seem to be able to conceive. Nadia confided in Jordan that they weren't able to have children, and that Jordan then offered to help with the situation. I guess Nadia didn't tell Sean that she had planned to enlist Jordan's help. And then when she discovered she was pregnant, she just let it be known that it was Sean's. Sean then discovered inadvertently that he was in fact infertile, and then discovered it was likely Jordan's baby. This sent him into a rage.
He doesn't confront Nadia with this, but yet it's kind of odd that neither one of them tell anyone at the party about their pregnancy. It's almost as if it's an embarrassing secret rather than something they're proud of.
So essentially what we've been able to determine is that Sean decided to confront Nadia about the pregnancy and about the fact that he was unable to conceive a child himself. And when he confronted her, he became enraged. She tried to defend herself, at which point he took a razor blade out of his pocket. He had secreted this razor blade onto the ship, and he essentially slashed her throat and killed her. In the process of killing Nadia, she tried to defend herself against Sean, at which point she grabbed a clump of his hair, pulling it out, and that's the hair that was found at the time her body was discovered.
When the lights come back on, his hat is backwards, so when Detective Lockhart approaches him, he's surprised and does his best to cover it up. Then, after sneaking away from police, he enters the men's bathroom to cut his hair, but runs into Jordan.
Even though Detective Lockhart obviously can't prove who the father of Nadia's baby is right now, she has strong suspicions it was Jordan based on some of the text messages that she uncovered.
When Jordan inadvertently stumbles upon Sean trying to cover up his initial crime, Sean panics and attacks him.
Well, we believe at this point the murder weapon, which has never been found, because of its small size, was likely thrown overboard by Sean. We'll likely never find it.
That's when he's approached by police to do the interview with Detective Lockhart. During their interview, Jordan's body is discovered about 30 minutes later. Even if Jordan had no idea he had walked into Sean trying to cover up evidence of his wife's murder, the fact that Jordan was the main source of Sean's rage towards his wife is probably what led him to kill a second time.
Sadly, Nadia wasn't having an affair with Jordan out of love. She was doing it to have a child. She turned to the person she could trust the most.
Somehow, Sean must have figured this out, and his wife's betrayal became the source of his rage. He also considered Jordan to be a problem, but it was walking into the bathroom while Sean was cutting his hair that sealed his fate. Just because Jordan's body was found while Sean was being interviewed doesn't mean the murder took place at that time. This obliterates Sean's flimsy alibi that Jordan was murdered while he was with Detective Lockhart. Sean Green is put on trial for the murders of Nadia Green and Jordan Nardello. Sean is convicted of murder in the first degree for Nadia Green and second degree for Jordan Nardello. He's sentenced to life in prison.
The fact that Sean was convicted for the murders does nothing to stop the pain of losing Jordan and Nadia.
It's clear, though, that Sean was very jealous about their relationship, and now, because of this, he has 2 murders on his hands. The most common reasons to murder someone are love or money. In this case, it was clearly love. Sean loved Nadia, and he felt betrayed by her, and this drove him to do what he did.
It's the last terrible thing that Sean does before going to jail for life.